Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Friday, August 9th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Friday, Major League Baseball. First up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Texas Rangers. We're going to see Cody Bradford and Carlos Rodon as your starters. Rodon's in pretty good form right now. His last three starts were all wins and all division wins against the Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Rays. And strikeout numbers are there. He's really, missing a lot of bats recently. And I think he pitches well in this spot. I mean, the Rangers were hitting lefties pretty well, but obviously they almost got no hit by Framber Valdez in that Astros series. Kikuchi went 5 1/3 of 2-run ball with 8 strikeouts also in that series. So I think Rodon pitches well. I don't really love Bradford, even though he's got a sub-4 ERA. You look at the recent numbers or recent games, 3 home runs combined in his last 5 2/3 innings, 8 earned runs to go with it. So I think the Yankees get to him for enough runs to win and cover the run line. Give me New York in this one. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Washington Nationals. We have Jose Soriano and Mitchell Parker as the projected starters. I like the way both these starting pitchers are looking recently, and I would lean towards the under, but I also like the Angels in this one because Soriano has really been sharp. I mean, the Angels have won his last 4 starts. He had 6 innings, a shutout ball with 6 strikeouts in that last game against the surging Mets team, and he's a ground ball specialist. He's got great ground ball percentage this year, facing a Nationals team that's the second highest in baseball in ground ball percentage offensively, just below the Marlins. So that really bodes well, in my opinion, for Soriano. He's also been better on the road this year, so I think he puts together a strong quality start. Parker's been sharp recently, but the Angels have improved slightly in the last couple of games against left-handed pitching. You look at the bullpens, both bullpens in terms of the expected numbers aren't great, but the Angels have the much better bullpen. So I'm going to go with the Angels and the under in this one. Next up, an AL East battle between the Orioles and the Rays. We got Zach Eflin and Zach Littell as the projected starters. Of course, Eflin facing his former team in this one. So far with the Orioles, Eflin's had 2 quality starts, 6 innings of 3-run ball against the Blue Jays in an Orioles victory, and then 6 1/3 of 2-run ball in a 7-4 Orioles win. And while that first game he gave up 10 base hits and a home run wasn't the sharpest, I will say, we know Eflin's pitched really, really well at Tropicana Field this year. He had a lot better numbers at home than he did on the road when he was a member of the Rays. So I think he puts together a strong outing. I mean, the Rays have not been great offensively against righties in the last month. Littell has pitched well recently, but the Orioles have been able to get a lot of base runners against him in the 2 starts he faced him this year. They were back-to-back starts, which is tough, but still, back on June 2nd and June 9th, it was 12 innings combined. It was only 6 earned runs, so 2 quality starts, but 18 base hits combined with 2 home runs to go with it. So a lot of base hits, a lot of base runners, a couple of walks thrown in there as well, and only 5 strikeouts in those 12 innings. I trust the Orioles lineup more in this game. While the Rays bullpen's really improved, I think Baltimore's good enough there to find a win. Give me Baltimore in the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Mitch Spence and Jose Barrios are your starters. I mentioned I haven't loved what I've seen from Barrios this year. That strikeout rate is concerning. Now, he is missing more bats recently, but still, I mean, 3 home runs, 5 earned runs in his last start against the Yankees. I don't really trust, when you look at his last 5 starts, he's given up at least 1 home run in 3 of his last 5 and at least 4 runs in 3 of his last 5. So I got to go with the A's in this one. I think they have the better lineup. I think they have the better starting pitcher. Mitch Spence, while his ERA may not be amazing, he's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in his last 3 starts. One of those games against the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I'm going to roll with the A's in this game. I like the way Oakland's playing offensively. That series against the White Sox wasn't their best, but I still think Oakland's the side in this one. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Boston Red Sox. Ronel Blanco and Tanner Houck are the projected starters. It's tough to go against the Red Sox when they're facing a righty right now. They are just crushing right-handed pitching. In the last 30 days, they are number 1 in baseball in team OPS, and Ronel Blanco has not really pitched too deep into ball games recently. A little bit of a concern for me. I know Tanner Houck's kind of been inconsistent himself. That last game was not his best, but I think the Red Sox are going to be able to back him up in the run support department early. The Red Sox bullpen had a pretty rough July, at least towards the middle of July, but it's improved slightly recently, especially after the trade deadline where they made a few key pickups in Sims and Garcia, and then you get Kenley Jansen back. So I'm not too worried about the Red Sox bullpen, even though I do think Houston has the advantage there. I think Boston does enough early offensively to find a win in this game. Give me the Red Sox on the money line at Fenway Park. Next up, the San Diego Padres taking on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Edward Cabrera and Martin Perez as the starters. Cabrera is pitching really well recently. It's nice to see as his strikeout numbers are there. He's at 15 Ks in his last 10 in the third innings. His control's been a little bit better. He's only given up 2 earned runs the last 2 starts combined. The Padres are a tough lineup because they do limit strikeouts. You got Luis Arraez at the top of that lineup, who has one of the lowest strikeout rates in baseball. So this is going to be a tough spot for Cabrera, but he's faced some tough lineups recently. The Braves, the Orioles, the Mets. So I think he puts together a solid outing. Perez pitched really well in his Padres debut. Don't really love this Marlins lineup against the lefties, so I think we see a lower scoring game. Then you look at the fact that these bullpens have been very strong in terms of their expected numbers in the last month. I'm going to go with the under at a pitcher-friendly ballpark in Padres Marlins. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Chicago White Sox. Jameson Taillon and Garrett Crochet are your starters. And the White Sox finally snapped that losing streak, but they got right back in the loss column on Wednesday to end that series with the A's 3-2 loss in that one. And that was a game they were up 2-0 early, and they blew it in the 7th inning. Goes to show you the White Sox, they only scored 2 runs. Their offense has been struggling. Their starting rotation has been okay here and there, but that bullpen has really suffered. And in this game, Garrett Crochet's pitched well overall this year, but he's not pitching deep into ball games recently. The Cubs have hit lefties pretty well in the last month. I think they can get to Crochet for a few runs. Taillon's pitched well overall this season for the Cubs, and I like the Cubs to win this game. And I think, their bullpen's also improved quite a bit in the last month or so. Their expected numbers are pretty solid, so give me the Cubs in this one on the money line. Next up, we go to the NL Central as the Reds take on the Brewers. We got Carson Spears and Aaron Civale as your starters. We know the one thing that Civale has really struggled with in his career is the home run ball, and he's given up 22 home runs this season. He's usually good to give up a home run per game. We saw another one given up in that last start against Washington. And it's not great when you're facing a Cincinnati Reds team that in the last 30 days is number 2 in baseball in isolated power against righties, and they just hit righties well in general, pretty low strikeout rate to go with it. I don't really like the way Savali's pitching, and I think the Reds can get to him for a few runs early. And I know Spears gave up 2 home runs in his last start, but I still think he's a much better starting pitcher in this game. Now, when you look at the bullpens, they're pretty similar in the last month. Actually, they're 6 and 7 in terms of the expected number, xFIP, in the last 30 days. But I think Cincinnati does enough early against Civale to win this game in the end. Give me Cincinnati at a pretty good price on the money line. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Kansas City Royals. We got Michael Lorenzen and Miles Mikolas as the projected starters. Now, the Cardinals' current hitters have had about 78 career plate appearances against Lorenzen, and Lorenzen's pitched really well against those hitters. He's got right around a 30% strikeout rate, a 161 expected batting average, and a 278 expected slugging. Really sharp numbers, and he pitched well in his Royals debut. I think he pitches well in this game, and I like the Royals matchup here against Mikolas, who has not been the best recently. He still has an ERA above 5 overall this year. And at Kauffman Stadium, especially where we know the Royals have crushed righties and lefties, it's just been a great offensive team at home. I like their matchup here. We know the Cardinals have really struggled with runners in scoring position and offensively in general this year. I like Kansas City in this one, the money line and even the run line at home. Next up, the Rockies and the Braves. We see Spencer Schwellenbach for Atlanta, no official starter for the Rockies. Right now I'm leaning towards the Rockies. We'll see who their official starter is, but Schwellenbach, while he's pitched well, he's got great strikeout numbers. He's also a young pitcher making his Coors Field debut, which we faded quite a bit this year, and the Rockies done pretty well against pitchers making their Coors Field debuts. And Schwellenbach's given up 5 home runs the last 3 starts, so a lot of sharp contact. That doesn't bode too well usually at Coors Field. The Braves' offense has been hit or miss this season. Even if, at Coors Field, I expect them to have a better series here, but I think the Rockies are the play right now, so give me Colorado on the money line. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Wheeler and Ryan Nelson are your starters. Great matchup in this one. Obviously, a rematch of the NLCS. Obviously, a good pitching matchup with Wheeler and Nelson. Nelson's been a very profitable pitcher recently. The Diamondbacks have won a lot of his games. Wheeler, outside of that one game against the Yankees, is in great form, and the Phillies are 4-1 in his last 5 starts. The difference for me in this game is Wheeler has pitched really well against Arizona in his career, especially recently. We saw in the postseason last year, in the regular season. Nelson, not so much against the Phillies. He's had not the best numbers against the current Phillies hitters. I know the Phillies bullpen's not been the best recently, but it's still number 1 in baseball in projected WAR. So on paper, still a very strong bullpen. I think it does improve as the season goes along. I'm going to go with the Phillies. Should be a great game, but give me the Phillies in the money line this one. Next up, the New York Mets taking on the Seattle Mariners. We got Jose Quintana and Bryce Miller as your starters. Now, the Mets are in the mix there in the NL wildcard race, but you can't deny this is an absolutely brutal spot for New York in this game, as they've been all over the place recently. I know traveling in baseball and professional sports is just a part of the game. These are pro athletes, but this is a really tough spot as you got the Mets. They wrapped up their homestand last week against the Twins, and that was on Wednesday. They had a day off in between that Twins series and their road trip, but then take a look at this road trip. They play 3 games in Los Angeles against the Angels. Then, because of a weather postponement in May, they have to make up a game against the Cardinals in St. Louis. So they have a one-off game in St. Louis after that Angels series. After that one game in St. Louis, they go to Coors Field for that 3-game series in Colorado. And now they don't get a day off in between that Coors Field series and this series back on the West Coast in Seattle. Their time zones have been all over the place. The altitude's been all over the place. No day off in between that Coors series is already something we look at when it comes to, fading teams. And I expect some sluggish bats. Even the pitchers, I expect the bullpen to kind of be all over the place in this one. This is a really tough matchup and just series in general for the Mets. I mean, if they can win this game or win this series, they're going to be a really tough team to face the rest of the year. But I can't go with them. I got to go with the Mariners in this game. Miller's pitched well at home. The Mariners have been solid against lefties. Give me Seattle in this one. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Mitch Keller and Jack Flaherty are your starters. Great pitching matchup in this one, but I do think Flaherty is the better option. He pitched really well in his Dodgers debut at Oakland. And I know it's the Athletics who have a bad record, but they've been really strong against righties in the last month. They're top 10 in OPS and ISO. So for Flaherty to go 6 innings of shutout ball with 7 strikeouts in a 10-0 Dodgers blowout win, it's pretty impressive. And I think he pitches well against the Pirates team and not been anything special against righties recently. They're ranked 28th in isolated power. So I think Flaherty puts together another quality start. Mitch Keller on the other side's pitched well, but this Dodgers team is improving offensively. They've got Freddie Freeman back in the lineup now. I think they get to Keller for a few runs and win this game and cover the run line. So give me LA in this one. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the San Francisco Giants. Robbie Ray for San Francisco, no official starter for Detroit. I like the way the Tigers are playing. They won that series in Seattle this week, and when you look at their numbers against left-handed pitching in the last month, high walk rate, low strikeout rate, solid OPS numbers, and a strong isolated power as well. Facing a pitcher like Robbie Ray, who's pitched well, but does give up a lot of home runs, which we've seen 5 home runs his last 2 starts. Sometimes his control can be off. The walk can pile up. We've seen that throughout his career. He is a strikeout-dependent guy, facing a team that's limiting strikeouts well recently. Not really a great matchup for Ray, even though it's at Oracle Park, which is very pitcher-friendly. I think the Tigers compete in this game, and honestly, this series, I think it's going to be a fun series to watch. Detroit's bullpen's not been great in the last month, but it's improving a little bit. So I'm going to take the Tigers in this one, plus the 1.5 runs on the run line and the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Friday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Put those baseball picks in the comments section below. And again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.